And on tonight's show, we have Edward Booth Jr., local attorney and a member of the board of the Jacksonville Historical Society. And Ed, welcome to the show.
Hello, Emily. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you. And Ed, we've got a hot topic. We'll be discussing Duval County courthouses over the many decades, actually century and more, century plus, almost 2 centuries.
Courthouses past, present, and future, 180 years of courthouses in Duval County.
That's right. Well, go ahead. Start by, I think so few people realize just how far back courthouse history stretches, and actually it goes back further than that. So go ahead.
Absolutely. We'll talk briefly about the French settlers at Fort Caroline. The first recorded example we have of modern jurisprudence here in Duval County took place at Fort Caroline in March of 1565. Where a trial for 65 soldiers charged with mutiny was held. The French officer presiding over the trial was the head of the French colony. These officers that were on trial for mutiny were found guilty. 4 were hung, and the rest were given relatively light sentences. But that is one historical example we have of a courthouse here in Duval County. And part of it,
Rene de Laudonnière giving out his stiff sentences, yes.
I set an example for them, I suppose. But as far as our current courthouses, we have to go to 1822, which is the date Jacksonville was founded, the town was laid out, the streets were laid out, and the first governor of the state of Florida, William Duval, was appointed in April of 1822. Things happened very rapidly from that point on. A court system was established. Duval County was established. And in 1823, the first lawyer moved to Jacksonville, Abraham Bellamy, and opened up his law office here in Jacksonville. August the 30th of 1822, the East Florida Superior Court was established. And as I said, Abraham Bellamy came to town as the first lawyer. And on December the 1st of 1823, the first court session was held. This was held in the open air, out under the trees at the corner of Forsyth and Market Street, the northeast corner. This is a current view of the location of the first court proceedings here in Duval County. Another view looking to the north, and yet another view of the exact location where the first trial was held. Now, the first trial taking place in 1823 was presided over by Judge Joseph Lee Smith. He was a Yale Law School graduate and the father of Kirby Smith, who later went on to fame as a Confederate war general. So that is the first example of what we would recognize as modern jurisprudence here in Duval County.
And Jacksonville had so few buildings at the time, a huge number of people who came for court sessions just slept out under the stars or under the trees.
Exactly, and this was a gathering point for people crossing the St. Johns River, just a block to the south at the site of Calford. So this was a very busy location for Duval County. But in 1825, construction of what would become the first Duval County courthouse began on this very site. Perhaps foreshadowing what is happening today, construction of the new courthouse took at least 15 years.
Something much talked about among history buffs that a lot of locals don't realize.
Exactly, and from the, we do not have a photograph of the original courthouse, but we do know it was a 2-story building that was 40 feet square and was facing Forsyth Street. It took years and years to build it. It was originally an open frame structure without a roof. Eventually a roof was placed on it. And by the early 1840s, we had the beginnings of what was the first real courthouse.
The early reports about that courthouse is people would say it wasn't fit for a barn. That was the commentary. Now, I guess by 1840, it did reach its peak in appearance.
It did. In 1826, some court sessions were held in this makeshift building. 1835, it was utilized as a garrison during the Seminole Indian War. 1840 is the date given for its final completion. But then in 1863, the Union soldiers came to town. and burned the courthouse along with many of the local churches to the ground. So we were forced to start over. And the city leaders did a remarkable job of that. They recognized the need for a courthouse, and construction began almost immediately. And so by 1886, well, actually some 20 years later, we had a very handsome building. Any Hollywood set designer would be proud to feature this in his movie as what a pre-turn of the century courthouse looks like.
Absolutely.
And this stood at the side of the first courthouse, facing east instead of south. And parts of this building survived up until 2 years ago, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But we do have a number of really clear photographs of the building. And given the size of Jacksonville at the time, probably around 60,000 residents, this was a large building. It doesn't make the proposed Better Jacksonville courthouse look out of proportion. The one proposed was 900,000 square feet. In light of the population of Jacksonville at the time, this building certainly was proportional to what is being sought today. Here's a painting from the period of the Duval County Courthouse. Fire again would prove the demise of our second courthouse. May the 3rd, 1901, the Great Jacksonville Fire took the courthouse along with most of downtown Jacksonville. We have quite a few photographs of the remnants of that building.
The walls stood after the fire, and sort of the description was that cracked like an eggshell, but they did stand in some form.
And you can see from these photographs from the period that the clock tower even survived. But this building was heavily modified. It was not considered at the time to rebuild it. We needed a bigger courthouse.
And they made an armory out of it instead at that point.
And it was turned into an armory, and the remnants of these walls stood until 2003, when it was returned to a vacant lot, and you saw the photographs earlier of the trees under which the first open-air court sessions were held. The third Duval County Courthouse was built directly across the street, directly to the west, on the northwest corner of Market and Forsyth Street. And you can see this is also a handsome building that would certainly look in place in any turn-of-the-century movie as to what a courthouse ought to look like. And this building served us for nearly 50 years. We do have a number of photographs of this building. It was modified somewhat over the years to recognize the need for more space.
And people often confuse this building with the 1903 City Hall. They looked somewhat similar, but there are distinctions.
They certainly did, and the City Hall sat 2 to 3 blocks to the west.
That's right, where today's Hayden Burns Library is.
That's correct. But some more views of the third courthouse, the one constructed in 1902. This is a good photograph in that it shows the annex that was built onto the back of the courthouse at some point during its existence. And this annex that you see on the left of the screen survives to this day as part of the Yates building. This is a view from the clock tower of the courthouse looking to the east, and then a daytime view. And if you look in toward the horizon, you'll see the spire of our headquarters, St. Andrew's Church.
We thank you for that at the Historical Society.
This is also an interesting photograph in that it shows the second courthouse and the third courthouse facing each other. As we've said earlier, the second courthouse was converted to an armory, and on the right of the screen you see the armory, and to the left you see the 1902 courthouse. By the 1950s, the 1902 courthouse had grown inadequate for the needs of the day. Our mayor at the time, Hayden Burns, was on a rampage to revitalize the waterfront. It was discovered that private industry was not willing to step up and revitalize that area, and so municipal buildings were offered as an option. And the site of the Cowford Crossing was chosen as the site for Duval County's fourth courthouse. This was an unsightly wharf area along the St. Johns, and this was considered a tremendous improvement although in later years we realized it would probably be better to have waterfront property on the tax rolls.
Right. Historians are writing a lot about that now, the pros and cons of having developed the waterfront at that point. But go ahead.
And this building has served us well for 15 years and continues to serve us well. A tragic footnote to the construction of this building is the worst industrial accident in Duval County history occurred during the construction of the Duval County Courthouse when in 1957 there were 7 construction workers killed, March the 19th of 1957, and 12 seriously injured when an external elevator on the west face of the building that was used to move men and materials up to the 6th floor broke loose from its railings, and the men plummeted to their deaths and to some very serious injuries. There's a plaque that stands on the west side of the courthouse that is pictured on the screen in their memory, and it's right behind the eternal flame that's the Veterans Memorial. 1958, the 4th Duval County Courthouse opens its doors together with a jail next door, which was able to house 450 inmates. Curiously, the jail was located on Liberty Street, and that's something that historians have a lot of fun with, and they also have a lot of fun of the fact that the south end of Liberty Street was at the Duval County Jail, and the north end of Liberty Street was at Evergreen Cemetery. So it's kind of a misnomer of sorts. The 1956 courthouse was designed during an era of racial segregation. And to this day, if you stand, as this photograph depicts, outside courtroom number 7, you will see 2 men's rooms located side by side. And it doesn't make a lot of sense until you remember during the day we had separate facilities. And it shows us how far we've come, but it's an interesting historical footnote. And there were also separate water fountains installed in the courthouse during that time.
I remember that.
We have a number of exterior views of the courthouse. I know there's really nothing architecturally significant about this box-style architecture, but it was certainly functional. And like I've said, it served us well for 50 years. These are photographs taken during the late 50s, early 60s, before the parking lots were built behind them.
And the courthouse itself is built out over the river. The river normally came all the way up to Bay Street.
That's correct. And as these photographs show, the river came right to the back door of the Duval County Courthouse during its early years. But this was Mayor Burns' dream, was to revitalize the waterfront, and it shows a job well done for the era. Interesting use of the courthouse during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the nuclear scares of the 1960s. It was pressed into service as a fallout shelter stocked with survival supplies. Something very few people notice about the building is some rather controversial artwork that hangs in the entrance lobby above the elevators. One of the reasons you don't see it is the elevator entrances are recessed under a ledge, and even standing at the elevators, if you look up, you will not see these sculptures. But this is Lady Liberty and the God of Justice. I'm not sure who did these sculptures, but they were very controversial at the time. They remain somewhat controversial to this day. I know of a number of defense attorneys over the years representing women charged with indecent exposure have used the argument that our community standards are best exemplified by the art we hang in the courthouse we're sitting in, and invite the jurors during the break to go out to the lobby and see what the community standards are. And as we can tell, the community standards.
What are the verdicts usually
perhaps,
after that?
I suppose they've been successful. I think it's fairly,
if they're still using it, yes.
I think it's fairly convincing. The building has some murals that depict Florida history on the southeast corner that very few people have ever recognized. Kind of an interesting use of brick and sculpting it to show some scenes from the 1500s, showing the French and Spanish occupations of Florida. And that brings us to the present day, and perhaps, I guess, what's in the news daily now is what is going to be the 5th Duval County Courthouse. Where is it going to be located, and what form will it take?
Well, it strikes me all the former courthouses have been so close geographically to each other, you know, and now we have one across the downtown. That's interesting. Of course, that's where the big plot of land has been cleared.
It was a change in philosophy of returning the riverfront to the tax rolls and seeking a large enough plot of land to meet the needs of the community. But by 2000, the city leaders recognized that the current courthouse was inadequate from a number of different standpoints. From a size standpoint, we know that annexes have been set up all over town in strip malls, shopping centers, to handle court functions that used to be handled in-house, and the need to bring it all back under the same roof was correctly recognized. We turned to September the 5th of 2000. The voters went to the polls and approved the Better Jacksonville plan. One of the signature buildings of the plan was the new Duval County Courthouse. It's the single most costly project within the Better Jacksonville plan. And some very well thought out key features were proposed: 43 courtrooms, 900,000 square feet, a law library that could be utilized by everyone in Jacksonville. Security has become very important since September 11th, and one of the reasons that we need a new courthouse is the old courthouse was just not a secure facility. And this would solve that problem. The state attorney's office, the public defender's office could be brought back in-house. A use for the historic federal courthouse, the old post office building, was studied. So we can, you know, this was a project that a lot of thought went into, and there were some rational reasons for doing all of this. Architectural contest was held. This is the design that was selected. This was to be a signature building for Jacksonville. As one traveled down Interstate 95, crossed the Trout River Bridge, one would see the dome, not unlike the Capitol Dome or the State Capitol Dome, of the Duval County Courthouse. Would have an impressive rotunda on the interior of this dome.
That's impressive.
And on April the 9th, 2003, a happy day for Jacksonville lawyers, for the legal community. Here is Chief Judge Don Moran and Mayor John Delaney breaking ground on the site of the 5th Duval County Courthouse, with an artist depiction on the right of the screen. Mayor Delaney issued a press release and expanded upon the press release in a speech he gave. Stated that courthouses are where our constitutional rights are protected every day, and they're essential to our freedom and democracy. And again, this was a happy day in Jacksonville. The Better Jacksonville plan was moving right along. The new ballpark was about to open. The new Veterans Memorial Coliseum was about open. The library was under construction. The scale model of the courthouse was displayed that day for the first time, and gave us an exact view. This is the view you would have looking down Monroe Street from about the intersection of Jefferson Street. The front door would be at the corner of Broad and Monroe Street as one looks to the east. This would be the south side of the courthouse as one stands on West Adams Street and looks to the north. The mayor got out a jackhammer and broke through the concrete, and all seemed well. The demolition for the courthouse began immediately, and it was projected that sometime during May of 2005 we would be moving into this new courthouse.
Oh gosh, now.
So today we would be moving into this courthouse. That hasn't happened. That's probably a subject for another show.
A little budget issue there, a little budget issue.
As to what will eventually become the 5th courthouse, if it will be in several locations, if it will be a single facility, as has been proposed. But the history that we have, and it's a rich history, is of 4 courthouses over 180 years that have served the needs of Duval County. And I'm sure someone is going to come up with a plan to build a 5th courthouse. But as we sit here today, this is looking in the front door of what was proposed to be the 5th courthouse. This is taken from the corner of Broad and Monroe Street looking to the east across a vast 7 square block complex of what would possibly be put to use as youth soccer fields right now. They've planted grass on them, and it looks like a public park. This is a sign that still hangs on the fence. I took these photographs just last week, and we'll close with this. This is history yet to be made. Is this going to be the site of the Duval County Courthouse, or will some other plan arise?
Well, goodness, Ed, I really want to thank you for bringing us so much of the history of Duval County courthouses, and let's hope that, and I'm certain it will not take as long to build this fifth one as it did the first one, those 15 years, but people sometimes need to realize that it's not always a simple process. Thank you so much for being with us
today,
welcome,
Emily.
Ed.
It's good to be here.
It was a lot of fun. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Harry Reagan, and we'll talk about some of the publications of the Jacksonville Historical Society.